All right, that was good.
And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. Today I'm here with headlock extraordinaire and sales guru, the great John Cox.
Hey, thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Man, so we go back a long way. Our wrestling days, we met in Fargo. You headlocked me, you packed me. That wasn't a great beginning to us meeting. I went on to have a great career at Navy and now doing great in business and sales. Just happy to have you on board.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me along. Like I've told you a couple of times, I've seen you grow this thing from day one. I'm just happy to be able to help and be of use for you at some point. So, hey, here, might as well be today. Why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about how you transitioned from a great wrestling career into business. So I guess start talking about wrestling.
Yeah. So anybody who knows me from my days in early Michigan knows that I'm not a very naturally athletically gifted person. And it took a lot of work every day to just, waking up in the mornings, boxing, lifting, working out, probably working out too much. But if there's anything that I've noticed of great athletes like in the NFL who've given me, motivational speeches throughout time, everyone kind of has that crazy notch about them, right? Like they're willing to drive their minds and their bodies to a place that just nobody else is willing to go. And I think growing up, I was blessed with that kind of mindset. I'm sorry if something sounds like a crash. My dog's right here next to me.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, I remember there was days I'd be working out, just training. All of a sudden, I found myself to excel at wrestling. I tried all the sports, soccer, football, track, rugby, all that. But I just tended to excel a bit and enjoy wrestling a little bit more than others. So I just said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a state champion. That's what I'm going to do. And I just went all in. I'm like, in pretty much anything I've ever done in my life, I always wanted there to be no questions asked. Like I've done everything I could for my goal. So being a state champion at that time was my total focus, and being a good student. My sister, she was really smart. My parents used to put the report cards above the door, and I would look at the report cards. I'm like, I'm gonna get better grades than her, so I was gonna be a state champion and get better grades. That was like all I ever wanted to do throughout my K to 12. So yeah, and eventually people always ask me, how'd you go to Navy? I'm just a small town boy from Michigan, and military is not very prevalent in the state of Michigan. It's just we have a lot of bases. People don't travel much to the state. Michigan's very, very isolated and landlocked, right? You're not conveniently going to North Dakota via Michigan. It's just like there's nothing else to go in Michigan unless you're going to Michigan. So anyway, yeah, there was a hat. My aunt was in the Navy. There was a hat she gave me one day in the corner of our living room. And my dad, at that time, I had placed fifth in the state as a freshman. And he's like, well, you might want to start thinking about going to college. And then he pointed that. He's like, what about Navy? I'm like, what the heck's Navy? I didn't even know what the Naval Academy was at the time. So, and really the rest is history. And we, ended up moving on to college from there. And yeah, it ended up just working out real well.
Talk about how wrestling formed you, and then talk about Navy, how Navy started to form you.
Yeah. Well, anybody who's wrestled, knows that this is a emotional, very all-consuming sport that laid the groundwork for me to not only be successful in wrestling, taking that mindset and really committing to it, but being able to be a good family man, being able to be a good student, being able to be a good father. It really taught me a lesson that if I was to she's really going crazy in the corner there. That if I'm going to take on anything in my life, it's all in. You're all in, and you're going to have a goal. I'm going to be the best father I can be. I'm going to be the best student I can be. I can be the best wrestler I can be. I'm going to be a champion in whatever that goal is. And that's really, I can say that's laid the groundwork in both business and wrestling alike. And when I went to the Naval Academy and really got that military foundation, military finish, if you will, that really helped me lay the structure onto my life. I became a lot more organized. I was able, when you go to the Naval Academy, you're not exactly hitting, go to the bar Wednesday night and then, getting hammered at the nearest sorority party. That's just not how it works. I always say that I probably wouldn't have graduated college had I not gone to Navy. Somebody was making sure I was in my room saying study, and really helped me, take those late teen, early 20 years and be able to make those, to maximize efficiency, in my opinion. So I could, was able to be as successful as I could and finish it off right and just get it done and move on to the next step of my life, which was my military career. So yeah, it was, you meet a lot of very accomplished very determined people who've been through a lot. I woke up my freshman year. I'll never forget. I had a major who had an office right across my room, and so most kids are just trying to get to class and waking up in their sweatpants. I had to look at one very accomplished officer every single day. The minute I woke up and right before I went to right before I went back to my classes, and it was it shapes you a little differently. And so hold on a second, I gotta just find this. So say providing my both of those experiences and how I came up in academics definitely helped shape my structure in my life and my determination just to get things done, which was really positive in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd assume you grow up real quick at Navy.
You do.
I'd say that, yeah, I mean, because right away it's got to be up at a certain time. You got to be doing certain things on top of. So it's all the things you're doing for the Navy plus college plus wrestling. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot to take on. There wasn't a lot other things you could fill in your life other than just going to school and doing the military thing and being a student and being an athlete. There's so much going on. I didn't have a lot of time to get into anything else. And I think that was probably fairly positive. I probably saved myself a lot of trouble and getting into a lot of trouble, in my opinion, at that point. I was kind of a crazy kid.
Yeah. And I'd assume that any of the academies, it's going to teach you more to be a leader, to speak up, to take initiative. Can you talk about those things and then how that influenced you in business?
Yeah, sure. It actually had a lot of influence, and especially the way I do business today. You go to the academies to be a leader. That's what they grounded your head every single day. You better take this seriously. You're going to be a leader. You're going to be going into battle, and I did do all that. You learn how to delegate real fast. You learn what happens if you don't delegate. You learn what happens if you don't inspect what you expect, as a common phrase you're always hearing in the military, especially as an officer. How to hold people accountable, how to follow up, how to make sure people are staying on task. And that's funny. I've been able to kind of take a lot of those leadership skills. Although I'm an individual contributor at my current company, I kind of look at my customers as not my subordinates, but people I need to manage. Right? Hey, you might want to get a hold of this order or get ahead a little bit on the supply chain, because I forecast some problems coming up. Like, you're going to run short if you don't, order this today. Like, I told you, I did all I could, and they do appreciate that. And they do appreciate the personable approach I take. I always pick up the phone. You will always get a hold of me whenever I call. That's some of my guys, whenever I led them, throughout my time in the Marines and at the academy and everything, they always appreciate it. So, I try to bring that into my business culture today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talk about the transition then into the Marines.
Yeah, that was wild. So
I believe.
So can you still see me right now, by the way?
No.
Nope. Okay, hold on 1 second. Yeah, I keep having these calls come in. So I'm back. When every Marine Corps officer is a rifle platoon commander, that you spend 6 months, your first 6 months as an officer, you spent at TBS, the basic school. They even have an acronym for "the" in the Marines, because I guess that's how Marines are. But you spend 6 months going through the woods, looking for boxes, land navigation, shooting, leadership skills, infantry skills, all that sort of stuff. And that's your first real taste of how it is to be a Marine officer. And then they assign you your duty after that, or your job that you're going to go into, your MOS, military occupational specialty. And I ended up becoming a logistics officer, and taking control of my own platoon. It was that time. It was very Afghanistan was in full swing. It was all very kinetic, and we knew that we were probably going to be going into something pretty serious one day. So it was all very. I felt lucky at the time that I was able to be part of that and have that be my military experience. I always say I was one of those kids that was playing war in my backyard. And if you're a kid who liked to play war in his backyard growing up and hoping you're going to be part of something like that someday, at that time, Operation Enduring Freedom was a really great opportunity to be able to, get that out of your system, to get that in your life. And so I was able to do that. She's insane, my dog. To do that and lead some guys to do a very real and what I felt was a very awesome opportunity that not a lot of people do, especially if they aspire to do really awesome things in battle.
Yeah, yeah. And then that had to form you on top of your experience at Navy. Then being a Marine, that had to give you additional formation to prepare you for life.
Yeah,
What kind of
yeah.
things are different that actually now being out there in the field? How did that form you?
Perspective. You get perspective on a lot of things. I, you know, I'd say my deployment to Afghanistan, I did one, and a lot of people did two, three, four. I had one very, very serious deployment, and all my training and all of my schooling and all my leadership skills and all sort of stuff really were tested during that time. I was part of this big battle called Operation Mashtarak. It was one of the battles in the Operation Enduring Freedom. We took over a Taliban stronghold called Marja, Afghanistan. There's HBO specials about it and all that sort of stuff. It was this big thing. I had CNN and Fox News and Reuters and all that stuff with me. I brought them to go do, around different parts of the battlefield to go do the reporting, among other things. But when you go through something like that and you realize, you see these people, these poor Afghan people, that are being controlled by this awful organization. And you get a whole different perspective of not only what they're going through, and not only really what's going on in other parts of the world, but then at the same time, you're really kind of fearing for your life every day, but you don't think about it so much. I'll never forget Christmas in 2010. My staff sergeant, and we're sitting there in the tent. We're all, preparing to go out the next day. He's like, "Hey, listen, we're going to go outside that wire tomorrow. And that's really crazy. It's a really, really dangerous thing to do. You don't think it's dangerous right now because you're in the middle of it, but you're going to look back on that someday and think like, wow, that's really something else. That was really nuts. And you know what? It was really nuts. It was extremely dangerous. And going through all those things, really just gives you a lot of perspective on life. Like, okay, I lost this sale. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. We find out we're going to lose our job next week. And I'll never forget, my wife and I, we at one point when I was transitioning out of the Marines, there's some administrative snafus that went on. We didn't know if we were going to end a paycheck the next week. And I just remember looking at my wife, I'm like, listen, we don't need anybody. We're going to get through this. I know that we are. This is my first rodeo. I've been through a lot tougher than this. So yeah, that kind of inner fortitude and being able to go through those really harsh experiences, I'd say developed me even further, on top of, building the whole mindset, and eventually, leading to me having an opportunity to compete in the Olympic trials, which was really, really awesome. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Great experiences there. Now talk about, what would you say some of the main qualities or mindsets you need to be a champion that would carry over from wrestling, Navy, Marines, and just sales and life?
Yeah. I'll turn this on. The call coming in. What I call it is no quit, right? You say you have a goal and there's no quit and you're all in. I'd say that if there's ever a special sauce, anybody, oh man, they're really coming in today. Holy smokes. If there's ever a special sauce that you need to get things done in your life, you need to have a goal. You need to know what the goal is, and you have to have it clearly identified. And you need to say, hey, I will be all consumed by this and nothing will get in my way. Nothing, I'm not gonna have a few more beers tonight. I'm not going to, spend, I need to get out of the house and go on the road for a few more days. I need to sit up and write this battle plan for my team tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm not going to know what we're going to do. I need to do 100 push-ups and 100 more sit-ups tonight. I can't tell you how many nights when I was growing up, just doing 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups before I went to bed every night, not knowing the effect of that little mindset effect that would have later on down the line when I needed to have a goal or needed to, be a better business person or a better father. And just, it would all be relative, and all that mindset carried over throughout every single facet of my life. So not only is it important now, thinking that, hey, being a state champion is a big deal, and it got perspective, right? Like when I was 16 years old, all I wanted to be was a state champion. There was nothing else more important in my life. Like, wow, so much has happened since then. But the mindset remains the same, right? You're all in, whatever you do. Don't let anything else get in your way. Don't be distracted. Have a goal and just go for it.
Awesome. Now I guess I'll ask you the flip side of that question is, what would you say some of the biggest, we call mindset red flags, or biggest mental mistakes, or things, barriers that stand in the way mentally of reaching your goals for everyone?
Right. Sure. And I know you probably have a lot of female viewers here too. So I'm going to go ahead and say relationships in general, but for guys, it's girls, and for girls, it's guys. You get distracted by these relationships. When you're a teenager, you're coming up and everything's so, you're hormonal, or maybe you go through a divorce and now you're looking for, the next person in your life. And And what you thought was so important, your goals, your financial goals, whatever, your professional goals, whatever it is, well, it becomes a little less important. Now you have a significant other that you're just, it's so new and so awesome. And I've seen that really derail a lot of people. And not that it's a bad thing. Relationships are awesome, but everything is good in moderation, right? It's okay to have a couple of drinks, but don't have it all consume your life, substance abuses, all that sort of stuff. I mean, any other facet outside of your life that is not your goals is going to end up being a distraction at some point. If you can handle it in moderation, that's great. But it really takes a lot of discipline to be able to keep it, on the straight and narrow. And nobody does. We all falter, right? I know I coach now. I coach wrestling now here in New York, and I know some great wrestlers. Some guys who have staff, they have nutritionists, they have lifting coaches, and all of them go off of their plan at some point. All of them. Nobody's perfect. So hey, if you make a little mistake, you have a little boo-boo, you went on a couple of more days than you should have to. It's okay, but just learn from your lessons. Take something and take something to learn from it, and always make everything into a positive.
Makes sense. And then what big barriers would you tell someone to overcome if you're mentoring someone who's just getting started with the sales career? What do you tell them to do, and what do you tell them to avoid?
Yeah. So I tell them, you're going to get a lot of doors slammed in your face. Don't let it get to you. You got to make that next sales call. You have to keep moving forward. This is business. You're not in customer service. You're not in technical support. You're not in management. This is not going to be a very predictable day, and no one's going to guarantee that you're going to make the next sale. You just have to keep on going. You have to keep on grinding. You have to innovate. You have to come up with new ways to be able to make an approach to, if you have a certain, like I have a certain number of accounts, right? I sell to hospitals. There's not going to be any more hospitals that are going to be made in my career. And they're going to be the same staff that's working there. So how do you innovate a different way to be able to get them interested and be able to find a different approach for them to find whatever you have interesting, or to be able to create that need? So that's hard. This is coming from me to you from the School of Hard Knocks. These are lessons I've learned in the past decade I've been doing this. And starting out was I wouldn't have thought that I would have learned the lessons that I've learned to this very day.
Awesome. Great stuff, John. Really appreciate having you. Now, last question, totally unrelated and irrelevant. When we wrestled over at the Navy Classic, those showers were ice cold. Did you guys? And I remember thinking, like, man, these Navy guys are showering this all the time. That's why they're hard of steel, right? So I wondered, were they always cold showers there? Did you just stick the opposing team over in those?
I think that was just the opposing team, man, because I remember our showers always being obnoxiously hot. So it just must be the piping. That was a long time ago, man. Who knows? Maybe those pipes have been in there since the 1800s or something. Who knows? But yeah, that was definitely your problem. That was not us.
That's what I suspected, by the way. Great, John Cox. Thank you very much. Great information. I hope everyone that's watching is sitting there with a notepad. Take those notes because, man, he knows what it takes to be a champion. Sports, school, business, and life. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks, Gene. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely.